Hey, Bourbon Bay, this is Steven, your host. I'm here with one of my idols, myth, the legend. Uh, you may know him as the Booze Traveler. He's a cancer survivor and just an all around great guy. And I'm lucky enough to have him here on my show. So I'm going to let Jack take it away and kind of introduce himself. And we're going to have a great little chat while we have him here. So, Jack, why don't you let my audience know who you are? And yeah, so I'll let you go.
It's so funny. First of all, more myth than legend, I'm sure. But thank you for that very nice intro, Stephen. Yeah, it was real fun. I got to do Booze Traveler on Travel Channel from 2014 to 2018, and now it's in reruns, of course. Discovery Plus bought the network. Excuse me, Discovery bought the network that owned Travel Channel called Scripps, and now it's on Discovery Plus. It's really nice to hear from fans of the show and other people who, especially during the pandemic, which was such a hard time for all of us. And they were saying things like, your show does two things that we can't do right now, and we really miss it because nobody can travel and you can't be around other people. And I think that's what Booze Traveler was good at. Not me, the show, the production company, Cargo 7 was wonderful. The network Travel Channel supported it. The crew I had, great DPs and producers and people who helped, of course, and the people back in LA who did the pre-production while I was on the road. The editors, everybody just made that show look so good. And I just think it was such a blessing to have done it, especially now with the way the world has changed. Hopefully at some point we get back to almost normal, the way, whatever that's going to be going forward. But I really miss travel and I really miss meeting people. It's so nice when I'm around, living in Phoenix and LA, and people come up and we talk about the show, because it wasn't just a role you would play like on a regular television show, scripted drama or comedy or something. This was me. There's no line of demarcation between me and the guy you see on television, because it was a personal experience and I just enjoyed every minute of it.
No, yeah. I mean, I remember watching that first episode you did when you were in Turkey. And I mean, and also what you're saying, or your favorite saying, was that, pour a person a drink and the whole world opens up to you. And I mean, I just loved it. And you were able to not only make a show where it was, about, drinks, but you were able to tell the culture and the history of a place, and talk to so many interesting people. And like you said, it's like, yeah, hopefully, once this pandemic is behind us, we'll be able to start traveling again. But like, yeah, going kind of into more with the Booze Traveler, do you have a favorite episode that uh, you liked a lot? I mean, I know like one of my favorites was when you were in Siberia and Lake Baikal. And then also another favorite was when you were in Israel. And I mean, I just loved how you kind of were able to show the different cultures and how much, because I went to Israel back in 2010, and I was just amazed. I mean, it's not like how they talk about on the news media and everything like that. I mean, these are people that they get along well, their cultures are different, but in a lot of ways they're similar. And I think in your episode when you were in Israel, you really did showcase that, especially like in that first scene when you were with that one gentleman in the Dead Sea. And I just love that part.
Yeah, he was doing a little thing, la 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 la,
Yeah.
whatever it was. It's some funny thing. I don't remember the exact sound, but such a delightful gentleman. And that's the thing. We went to the Palestinian side, of course. We went over to we had to cross the line over to the West Bank, and we got to talk to both people. Clearly it was a small pool of people we spoke to, and we didn't get too much into the conflict. But they said they were both people on both sides were saying the same thing, that I don't want to fight, I don't want to kill the other people, but they want to kill us. And it's
Yeah.
just sad that they have to live under that without getting into obviously the politics of it and the human tragedy of it all. But yeah, it was a surprising place. But I think I would say that about anywhere I went. You never know what you're going to get. You can go back to the same city, state, country, whatever region, a dozen times and have a completely different experience every time. Almost impossible to replicate it unless you just stay by yourself and do a touristy thing, which I would never recommend. To answer your question, I think Sicily was one of my favorites for sure, because I was able to bring my mom with me over to Sicily, and I have Sicilian blood. I'm Sicilian and Irish, and so we got to meet relatives that I'd only heard about, and for them to meet my mother because her grandfather,
Oh,
because he moved to the States, and they were just bawling their eyes out, hugging everybody. It was just so fun, and they just treated us so wonderfully. But I have no problem with any of the people I met around the world. All the cultures are open in their own way. Even those considered not warm or friendly, or whatever, without me naming names, of course. They opened themselves up to us. Like maybe you said, the secret right there is have a drink with somebody, and the whole world opens up. And funny you bring up Lake Baikal. I just posted a picture from Siberia from that episode, and it was just so wonderful to revisit that again. I guess it was for Throwback Thursday or something. And this gentleman, way out there. I mean, they just live among themselves. This little group, and they this, I forget what they're called, but so some kind of military training they do constantly with knives and swords and horses and everything else. But what an experience! But Lake Baikal specifically, I remember we drilled a hole into the lake, and it's frozen solid for many feet down. So we were able to pour vodka in there, and it chill like that, of course. And we got a nice cold sip of vodka on Lake Baikal, the largest lake in the world by volume. What a great time that was. Although it was really too cold for my liking, but you have to, as they say, break eggs to make an omelet, and so you enjoy what you can of it. And I think that's really the secret to traveling. It might not have everything you're looking for, and it certainly won't have all the creature comforts, but you don't do it for that. You do it for the experience, because I think we're enriched by the sum total of our experiences more than we are by the material goods we gather and collect. At least I feel that way. And I think the show kind of proved me right from my own personal experience, because I remember so many of the people I visited and so many of the places, and I'll have it with me the rest of my life.
no, I mean, that's great because, yeah, I know when I go out and travel to different places, it's like that's kind of the whole point, is going to and exploring those cultures, and kind of just beyond the tourist areas and stuff. And like I know the one episode I like a part of with the when you were in Siberia is where you went, I think it was to one of the towns off the river, I mean off the lake, and you kind of discovered that where vodka, which everybody thinks, okay, Russia, it's vodka, but you found that, like, though there was a drink before vodka, and now they're kind of trying to bring it back and learning that history.
Polgar,
Yeah,
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 Polgar, yeah, and that is the official alcohol drink of Russia. And Tsar Nicholas the First, I guess, I don't know, he must have he prohibited it, made it illegal or something like that, because everybody was making it in their backyards and at their homes, and he couldn't make money off that. So it was only vodka, and it had to come from them only, so they can make money, tax it and everything else. But then the Bolsheviks came in 1917 and banned everything, although they drank as much as anyone, from what I understand. But now the national drink's coming back. They have, pride in that, and everybody's excited, or the people I talk to about it anyway. And it's half burnt is where the name comes from. And as you remember from the episode, I believe we set it on fire and it reduces. But what an experience, and so great for people to get their identity back, at least part of it, through a long lost, in this case, alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, that just like I loved how you were able to kind of like bring that experience, because not many people are going to know that. And it's almost kind of like the similar here in the US when it comes to bourbons. It's that, well, people know the stories that, the big brands uh tell you about their bourbon, but it's like not so many people kind of know about the history. behind it, the actual history and how it shaped our country.
Oh, it sure did.
Yeah.
That's such a great point. Rum made the colonies, but bourbon made America, if you ask me, of course.
Oh no, yeah. I mean,
So,
like, and kind of going to one of your episodes. I mean, and I loved how you kind of did those episodes in the United States where you did the one up in Massachusetts, back kind of in your home area. Where you went to Concord and you did the Paul Revere and you kind of did the reenactments there. So, and then also then you went on to where Tennessee, where they kind of were redoing the rum, like where that one gentleman was making rum in Tennessee back how like George Washington used to make it with the molasses, and not the blackstrap. It was, I think, trying to remember what kind of molasses it was, but it was, yeah. I mean, and I found that just really interesting.
sure, Phil Pritchard, I think was his name,
Yeah,
Pritchard's Rum, and in Tennessee, and that was great. And then you're referring to the Pawtuxet Rangers, I believe, where we did the reenactment of
yeah.
the Gaspee days and all of that. It was really, really a lot of fun. See, it wasn't just about alcohol. It's not
No.
just about drinks. It's really about people and
Mm,
culture, and celebrate who you are through this, in this case, through what it is you drink
no,
and
yeah,
why.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and you did that like with another favorite episode I liked was also when you went down to Savannah and you kind of did the different groups of the people there, like where you started out with the dancers, the, yeah, the lady male dancers that dressed up, and then she showed you around, or he showed you around the
Female
cemetery.
impersonators, right?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
impersonator. Yeah, the female impersonator. Yeah. And then you kind of ended the episode where you had the Jewish culture afterwards with the synagogue, and had the big feast, and then you had the
that's right.
gala.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then that was a great part of that episode was with the gala. So, I mean, like there was part of it that when you came to Florida and you showcased like the Keys and things like that, and I thought that was a really kind of fun part. But and I think you did that in 2016. I think that episode came out in the third season.
Yeah, you're gonna have a better grasp on that than I do, because I did what did I did 63 episodes of
Yeah.
that, 10 of Best Bars, and 3 of The Trip, and I don't remember exactly which shows went where now.
Yeah.
If you I also went through cancer and chemo, so my
Oh
memory's not
yeah.
what it used to be. I feel good, I'm healthy, I just don't remember the exact year that was, but you're probably right.
Yeah. I mean, I like that Florida episode. The only one thing I kind of wish you came up to, because like down here in Florida, we almost kind of consider the Miami, South Florida, that's like the new Florida. And then up here between like Tampa, Orlando, you could say it's a little bit more old Florida. And I mean, since that time, the distillery numbers have grown. I mean, it's basically, I think, gone from like 30 back then to now it's around 80 distilleries. And
Well,
yeah, and it's like that's kind of like one thing I eventually hope to kind of do is do like a little history on Florida's distilling history. And I mean, like, would you ever kind of do that, like come to Tampa or go to some of these places and kind of do that again and do um kind of like continue on with the history set, or what is?
well, I'd love to. There was so much we didn't do, of
Yeah.
course. I could go back to some states and do a whole episode again and get everything that I missed. I mean, excuse me, not do anything that I did from the prior episode is what I'm trying to say, or back to another country, or countries we didn't hit, or states we didn't hit. There was so much left on the
Oh
table
yeah.
there. I'm sorry to say, but of course, we're not doing the show anymore, so
Yeah.
it's hard to say. I mean, obviously, it's a hypothetical at this point. But if it were to come back, or they asked me to do it again, or if I had a similar show, I'd love to come back to that region, see what it is you're talking about.
Yeah, and I mean, kind of going back into what you were saying is that you survived cancer, you're a cancer survivor, and that kind of started another little journey you did, because I know um, you didn't want to go down the path that sometimes happens with people who are dealing with cancer, and where they're being treated with the opioids, like you had mentioned in your YouTube series, The High Road with Jack Maxwell. and you kind of decide, and your doctor told you about the CBD and THC. So, I mean, you
Mhm.
want to kind of go into a little bit about more about how you got into that and with,
Sure. One of the side effects from chemo is a thing called neuropathy, and it's severe pain, very centrally located, or located specifically in certain areas. I'm pointing as if you can see it: my foot, my knee, my hip, and my back. And I tried all kinds of things for it, epidurals, and I did all the at-home things I could possibly do: Epsom salt baths and rollers and Advil and everything else. And as you saw, my doctor was telling me about CBD and THC, how it has been known to benefit people of of all stripes, from all things, of course, all kind of maladies, but neuropathy is one of them certainly. And I tried it, and it made a difference, and it helped me sleep. I was never a recreational marijuana user, as they used to call it. Now it's, I guess, understood to be cannabis, and it grows two different ways. If it's 0.3% or less THC, it's known as hemp. And if it's that or more, it's known as what they used to call marijuana, of course. And now it's this confusion as to how it's labeled and what it is and all of that. But it just has so many uses. And it used to be legal before 1937, I guess. And when a guy named Harry J. Ensign decided to ignore the advice of 29 doctors that he interviewed, but the 30th, the last one, said it's really bad for people. So he used that because he wanted to prohibit something, I guess. Maybe he had, maybe he was someone was in his pocket. I don't understand. Maybe they had him in their pocket. Maybe someone was getting to him. I don't want to slander the man, but something was going on, because it's not what they told us it was. I mean, in 1970, President Nixon made it a class 1 drug, which it should never be, up there with heroin. It's ridiculous. So in this case, I wanted to learn more about the history of that, why we were misinformed about it all, and how it could help me. And from that, when I was doing that, I decided, this would make a good journey. So I put together a TV show on it, and we spoke to a lot of people who you wouldn't think would ever come near cannabis. Like there's this mother, grandmother, nurse, and minister, all the same person in Kentucky. And she was older and by the book, and said, "What is this? Never touch that stuff." And then the son got her to try it, and it brought her great relief, because she didn't want to take opioids. And I'm not saying opioids don't have their place; they certainly do. But for her, it was clearly the choice, and now she's an advocate for it. We had an former NBA basketball player, whose grandmother, he convinced her to use it for her glaucoma and some other maladies, after really trying many times to get her involved. And she did, and it brought her great relief. So it's really interesting always when someone takes the opportunity to inform themselves of that particular thing, in this case, the use of cannabis, and that it helps them. They become converted. They not only are happy that they found something that they can use that maybe is not an opioid or that's effective or whatever, but also you see this little thing inside their mind that they felt that they were lied to all these years, or at the very least, misinformed. It's not because the education is not out there, but we were told no, they couldn't even study it for the longest time. And so now there's these holdups with ingestibles, with CBD, although cannabis is legal in so many states and all of that. So it's still a bit of a rocky road there, but it helped me during a very difficult time. And I think it was important to show that to people who didn't know maybe what it could do. And of course, everything on earth probably can be abused if you use it to excess. But in this case, it's probably not what you think it is, I would say. Not, I mean you, I just mean the general consensus is that it was bad, and it's just for potheads and hippies and whatever they used to say growing up, what they used to call them. And if you use it medicinally, it is a medicine, and it certainly can be. And it was used way before it got prohibited as a medicine. Again, it's in that sense, it was of course abused, like anything can be, by some people. But now it's helping more people than it ever has, and I think that's a good thing.
No, and I mean, I love that series you did on YouTube because I think, like you said, it was a great way to kind of get the information out. You were talking to like Viola, uh, the former NBA player's company, and I mean, so it was just a kind of a good way. And like, I mean, nowadays you're starting to see a lot more of it. Like, I know my company, we started to sell the CBD water, so now we have that in our stores, and I mean, is it like, do you think that's a series on YouTube you might want to continue, or um, like kind of maybe do a little bit more episodes? Because I mean, I find that to be kind of a fascinating um, area, and like you said, it's not an area that still is totally understood, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think it would be great to carry it on. And we just may do that, depending. Of course, you never know what the future's going to hold, I suppose. But I think the fascinating thing about that for me was most people know about booze. They probably don't know
Mm,
how it applies to other cultures, which
yeah.
is why I think made booze travel relevant. But cannabis, we're also learning a lot from the bottom level about what it is and all, and its many uses. And of course, as you saw, we were all over the place, all the different states, and all the different uses, and talking to people from a scientific point of view, a medical point of view, how would religious and political point of view, how they were against it, and then maybe for it, or at least neutral now, knowing that it helps people. And then there's the tax revenue it of course brings in for local and federal government, of course. But at the same time, I'm not here advocating, holding a sign saying it's the greatest thing in the world, go do it. But inform yourself, at least
Yeah.
educate yourself, and you might, and that's with anything, by the way. I mean, look how divided we've been, um, over the whole COVID and everything else, and this horrible coronavirus is killing so many people. And I don't know how masks became political. And now the vaccine and all of that is really dividing us, which is horrible to see. And so I just have to go back to what we did on Bootstrap. We brought people together because I really believe that if you focus on what we have in common, you'll find we have way more in common than we do differences. If you want to just focus on the differences, well, you can find them, but the world will be a worse place for it.
And yeah, to your point on that, it's, I mean, that was like kind of going back to when I was in Israel. That was like one thing that my dad's best friend, who was Israeli IDF, back in the day, and then my tour guide, who was Arab, that was one of the biggest things they wanted us to know, was that the Arabs and the Israelis, or the Jewish people, got along better than sometimes even some of the different sects of Judaism did. And so it's
Sure.
like, I think, like you said, I mean, it's good to have opinions, and it's good to be, in the, or your own mind, but it's also to, when someone gives you a different point of view, it's like what you said, it's, you want to understand it. You want to educate yourself. And I think, shows like what you did with Booze Travelers, the High Road, it was another way to kind of educate people. It's like, look, okay, there isn't just a stigma, I mean, this is that cultural basis. And I mean, so yeah, I definitely loved like what you kind of were able to communicate with your shows, and hopefully, what you'll do in the future. So, but
Yeah,
uh,
hopefully we'll see.
yeah,
If not, it'll be something else.
yeah. But yeah, kind of going back to the Booze Travelers, what was probably one of the weirdest things you tasted or tried? I know there was the Mongolian episode where you did the fermented horse milk, and then I think it was Vietnam, I believe, where you tried the snake wine. So yeah, what would you say would be probably one of the weirdest things you tried on your journeys?
Well, the beauty of that is just like picking favorite episodes. I might have one that's different than someone who watched the
Yeah.
show, because you get out of it what you do. And, it's funny. I sit around sometimes when I'm with people who decide to bring up the show and talk about it and ask me questions, and I'm always happy to talk about it. But even in private with friends and family, and they say, "What's the worst thing you ever had?" And I say, "Well, what do you think?" And I would name 3 or 4 different things, and everybody has a different answer. Uh, I had uh, blood out of the
Yeah.
neck of a cow that
Yeah.
shot into a gourd mixed with honey wine with the Maasai warriors of Tanzania. I had spit beer in Peru, the Amazon tribe. I had frog in a blender, where they peel a frog, put it in a blender, mix in tree root, herbs, spices, and moonshine. And then let me see what else was there. Uh, there was all, like you say, snake wine and all kinds of stuff. So I think that I have people that get into discussions about it. No, the blood is way worse. No, the spit beer. No, the frog. So, there are a lot of things that were different that I've never had before. But just because they're different doesn't make them strange or weird. It's part of someone's culture. And I wanted to respect that, no matter where I went, no matter what I did. Because when they bring me in and they share themselves with me and their history and their food, their friends, their family, and then they say, this is what we drink, I'm not going to turn my nose up at that. I want the full experience. I want to learn who these people are through their stories, through their tales, through their culture, and also, of course, because it was called Booze Traveler, through what they drink.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I loved watching you do that because I kind of used to joke around with my friends. It's like, that's the job I should be having right now. But
Yeah, sure. A lot of people said that, Stephen.
yeah, but when I saw you do some of that stuff, I was like, yeah, that's a good thing that he's doing it that way.
Yeah, see, you got to take it all if you take some.
Yeah. And I mean, I thought it was great because like you and Andrew Zimmer, and I remember you made that little cork tour in one episode where you were chowing down on the little rum-filled donuts.
Oh,
And
see, yeah, there's good sides too. There's ups and
yeah, but
wouldn't even
yeah,
call
I
them
think
downs, but they're certainly different.
yeah, and I mean, I found those to be, just like you said, really educational shows, um, that really just made that entire show enjoyable and just
Oh, thank you. I really had a great time doing it. How could you not?
no,
I hope translated, but it was all real. We didn't fake a thing. I drank everything I said I did, and all those people were real. No actors, no one pretending. This is who they were because this is what the world is. It was my job to bring it to people as is and have some fun along the way.
and yeah, I mean, that's why I loved your show. It was really authentic, and I mean, even the stories from your childhood that you brought in, and like you said with the Sicily, or when you went to Sicily, and I didn't know that you brought your mom, but I remember you telling of this, how you were going and visiting your family from that time, and then I think you even did a saying from your grandmother, and the Irish saying from your grandmother, and I love that. So I mean, yeah, you really were able to bring a show and made it really authentic. And I mean, so because like you said, sometimes you get these hosts and it's like you find out later it's okay, well, that's not truly what they were or something like that. But I mean, you definitely had a show where it was truly authentic. So definitely appreciate you coming on and telling your story and sharing it, especially for someone, not a big time podcaster yet, but definitely appreciate you coming and sharing your story. And hope is you have any what's the plans for Jack in the future, or what's the future hold yet, or
Yeah, I don't know. I'm in LA and as a host, trying to put a couple of shows together and talking to some people about some other things, but sometimes those are slow developing. So I can come back on if something happens. We'll certainly stay in touch. But truly, it was my pleasure. It doesn't matter that you're just starting out as a podcaster, and it's not about being on big time podcasts. It's about sharing that story. And in this case, it's my personal story. Look, I went around the world and met a lot of people. And they were always, in many cases, over a drink, willing to share their story. And I think that's great. And if there was that much interest in it, as you say, there were a lot of people who really enjoyed that show. It's because people were on camera, willing to show who they really were. So when I get a chance to do that and share my story, uh, in this case on your podcast, I'm very happy to do so.
I definitely really appreciate it, and I hope to kind of follow in your footsteps, Jack, and kind of explore, because I mean, like, one of the sayings that I've come to learn is that rising tides raise all ships. And I mean, like, and hopefully, yeah, I mean, if you ever come down to Tampa, Hope you get in contact with me and I'll show you around, because there's a lot of great little distilleries, and the community here is just really, I think, definitely one to explore and check out, because it's it's you have Irish like us, you have Italian, you have so many different cultures that kind of come together. And so yeah, but I definitely appreciate you coming on, Jack, and thank you again. And yeah, let's definitely stay in touch, and I hope to, yeah, we hear about the future shows maybe coming along.
Oh, sounds good. You know, I have a couple of buddies down in Tampa, so if I get there, I'll look you up. We'll go for a drink. We'll tell stories.
Sounds great, Jack. Well, I hope you have
Okay,
a great
Steve.
night, and cheers. Thank you.
You too. Cheers.
Cheers. Stop the record.